Welcome everyone. I am really excited to be here after years of not attending DevConf. And my name is Václav Pavlín. I'll explain who I am in a bit. My talk is about something called Logos, and it's a project which tries to combine privacy, censorship, and permissionlessness to make internet more open and better place. So who am I? I am ex-Red Hatter. I spent almost 10 years at Red Hat. So who here has seen my face before? Okay, it's not as many friends as I expected. Never mind. I'm a new technology enthusiast. I really like new technologies, which I did enjoy at Red Hat as well. It's containers and then AI and all these things. I'm an open source promoter. I really like open source. Everything I do, I try to do it as open source, and you should too. And you probably do if you're here. And my job right now is a solution engineer at Waku. Waku is one of the projects I will mention. And as a solution engineer, I talk to projects that want to use Waku, and I help them integrate it or solve their issues, help with architecture. This is the logo of Waku project, and this is the logo of Logos. And I'll explain both. But first, a disclaimer. This talk may contain content sounding like conspiracy theories. So controversial content. Some of those are conspiracy theories for sure. Well, not for sure. You never know whether conspiracy theory is a theory, it's just a theory or a practice that you just can't prove yet. But there will be some. So just be aware. If you hate this idea, leave now, please. If you're still here, I want to check the sentiment. So I will say a word or a term, and you will please, if you can, raise a hand if thinking about that term makes you feel good. If it doesn't make you feel good, if it makes you feel bad or indifferent, then you can leave your hand down. So technology. Okay. Open source. Okay. Web3. Okay. I thought so. Privacy. Okay. Government. Good. Not governance, government. Okay. Blockchain. Okay. Okay. Bitcoin. It's better than blockchain. Interesting. Cryptography. Good. Good. Peer-to-peer. We're getting to the end. Anarchy. Nice. Anarchy. Future. Okay. DevConf. Amazing, amazing. Thank you very much. I think we have a pretty good base and sentiment for this talk, because I will not talk about Bitcoin. I will not specifically talk too much about blockchain, but I will talk about peer-to-peer networks. I will talk about technology and maybe future. It may be good or bad, but we'll see. So, first of all, I want to say you have nothing to hide. If you are on internet, in digital land, in the cyberspace, you have nothing to hide. Everyone can easily see and should see everything you're doing because, well, you don't do anything bad, right? You have nothing to hide. You don't need any privacy. It's okay. And I gave this talk at East Prague a couple of weeks ago, speaking about this, how you have nothing to hide, and how it's okay that the European Union wants to regulate your access to encryption. Although that's not true. You have something to hide. And it's maybe very, very simple things like, maybe I'm planning a birthday party for someone and I need to hide it from that person, otherwise it's not going to be a surprise. Or maybe someone is trying to kill you because you know something, so you have to hide that you know it, right? Or you have to hide yourself. There is different level of why you hide things and how serious it is, but you always have something to hide, and it's perfectly fine. So, do you agree with that? That we all have something to hide, and having everything out there in open and everything following everyone is wrong? Okay, okay, good. So let's think about this. What if you are a cypherpunk? If you don't know what cypherpunk is, there is this document, Cypherpunk Manifesto from 1993, and the key value is that, I'll say it, that AI extracted from this document for me. It was not ChatGPT. It was an open thing. It was a Venice AI, actually. So key values in that manifesto are these. Privacy, because we want to make sure that we don't have to show everything to everyone online. Open source, because open source code promotes collaboration, it promotes being able to look at what the actual software does. Anti-censorship, I want to be in a space where people cannot censor me. Well, that means I can't censor other people, and that's okay. Pro-encryption, we said that encryption is good. Being able to hide things is okay and good. Freedom of speech goes with anti-censorship, I guess. Self-sovereignty, I want to be able to decide for myself about myself. I mean, that goes with real world, but we're talking about technology, so they talked mostly about cyberspace and mostly about digital land. And one key sentence is that people always, well, not always, often mistake privacy and secrecy. And what this manifesto says, privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is the power to selectively reveal oneself to the world. So it's on your own terms, revealing information and revealing what you want to show to other people about yourself. So think about it. Maybe if you share these values, maybe you are a cypherpunk. And if you're not, it's okay. Maybe you are a crypto-anarchist. Crypto-anarchy has a manifesto which is even older, and they have these values in there. Anonymity. So if I'm online, I want to make sure that I can be anonymous. Not because I want to hide something, but I don't want my, how do you say that? Meat world self connected to my digital self. I want to build, or I want to be, everything I do should be based on trust and reputation. So I want to make sure that I trust only people that have good reputation, and maybe I will only trust my friends or friends of my friends, right? Or people that can prove that they have a good reputation. I want freedom of information. I want to be able to share freely. I want to be able to consume information freely. Security. I want to be able to use secure systems. So for that, open source is good because people can spot issues and fix them. Decentralization. And it doesn't mean that you need to immediately jump into something like blockchain, but even like if you have a Git repo and it has multiple maintainers, even that is decentralization because the power is in multiple people's hands, and if one disappears, you still have other people that can help and control. So maybe you're not a cypherpunk, maybe you're a crypto-anarchist, or both. But if you are a cypherpunk, what do you think about privacy and censorship resistant? Is it important to you? And I think most of you lifted hand when I asked about privacy, that thinking about it or having privacy makes you feel good. So what privacy gives us are some freedoms. It gives us freedom of speech, for example. If we have privacy to express our thoughts, we can express them freely among friends or even publicly if there is anonymity involved. It gives us freedom to innovate, or we want freedom to innovate, and for that we need privacy. We want to be able to, we are here on an open source technology focused conference because we like innovation and we want to do it. So we need it. And we want freedom from surveillance. I think we all agree that, and you seem to agree with that you don't want to be surveilled online. You don't want people or institutions to know your every step in the cyberspace. And you want freedom from economic constraints, like cyberspace or digital world is completely global. There are no borders. At least in my brain, there are no borders. I usually talk to people in Argentina or in Asia, and I don't think about it, oh, we are separated by multiple thousands of kilometers or something. There are no borders. So why would we need to have economic constraints when we deal with online world? Another thing why we need censorship resistance is we want to prevent Ministry of Truth. If you don't know what Ministry of Truth means, it was, I think, coined in the novel 1984 by George Orwell. Is the ministry that tells you what the truth is, and it influences your thought in a direction that they want to. And centralized systems, and you may agree or not, but this is, like, we can discuss it, I would say. But centralized systems usually lead to data control, because if you upload or provide your data to a centralized system, it will usually control that data for you, and then they will kind of own the data and can do stuff with it without your consent or permission. It leads to information asymmetry, which basically means the system, the centralized system, having your data, knows way more about you than you know about the system or operators of that system. It is vulnerable to manipulation. Again, if either the operators of the system or some attacker gets into the system, having all that information, all the data, can lead to manipulation. And usually centralized system have impact on free speech, which we can see in like social networks banning people for saying something that they don't like. PayPal had an issue where they put in the policies like, if we see you saying stuff online that we don't like, we will discontinue your account. Like, weird, but okay. To avoid that, I think we need to decentralize. And for that, we need open source code, we need community governance. So if I'm a user of a system, I should have a saying in how that system is developed and run. We need cryptography. We talked about cypherpunks and crypto-anarchists and how they valued encryption and cryptography. So we need cryptography to have the privacy and to have the ability not only to hide things, but also to prove that I am the author of the things. I can sign a message with my key and say, yes, I have actually published this information. We need redundancy. If you have a centralized system, it's up to the operators of the system to provide this redundancy. So if they do it badly and the system goes down, maybe you lose your data. If you have a decentralized system, you can participate in that redundancy. We need open standards. I think that's pretty clear. In open source, open standards are key. And then we need economic incentives. And the reason for that, and it goes into, like I watched a talk or listened to a talk about fairness in the autonomous vehicles here on this conference. And they talked about cryptocurrency and using that to instill fairness in autonomous vehicles. And it kind of makes sense because aligning incentives through economical incentives between participants in a system usually optimizes how that system works for the benefit. So to summarize that, what I talked about, to prevent Ministry of Truth, we need a decentralized, peer-to-peer, censorship-resistant systems. This was very conceptual, I would say, but I want to give some examples. These are not out of my head, but these are from talks that I've seen in the past couple of weeks only. So what are risks today that like we may not think about, but we may need to start thinking about? And we are getting to this conspiracy theory field. So KYC, if you don't know what KYC is, know your customer. If you registering at the bank or Revolut or whatever, they will ask you to take a picture of your face and your ID. Great, you need it because there are anti-money laundering regulations and stuff like that. Okay, but then if you think about it, KYC is not a new thing. It was a thing in the past. And then when there was a World War II, any country that had KYC'd, in a sense, their inhabitants was very fragile from the perspective of Nazis coming and just having a list of all the Jews and like, okay, goodbye, guys. Not great. So consider that. Like, if you provide all this information and like, it can be bad if something bad happens. Total control, like there is a risk of total control today. Remember COVID? Like we all willingly, and I'm not saying I was against any rules when COVID hit. I had no idea what COVID is. I had no idea what can happen to me or my family if we get it. So I followed all the rules. But if you think back to it, like we all accepted that we install an application that tracks us and tracks who we met with, and that also we will stay at home and not go across the border of the region where we live. And there were very few people actually opposing that. And we all felt like it's okay, we have to do it. I mean, we had to because we had no idea what it is. But now the governments know that we are willing to do it if there is a good reason. So just something to consider. We have tried how total control works over the people. Developer liability, that's a thing that is pretty new. So if you don't follow crypto and all these things, you may not know. But there is this project called Tornado Cash, and it's a privacy transaction system where you put money in and you take them out on the other side, basically cutting that link between the two transactions, right? So people build it and used it. For example, if I want to get paid in crypto, I will want my employer to pay through this so that not everyone knows how much money I have and how much money I get as a salary, which is a normal thing to want to have this kind of privacy in a traditional system. You don't share your bank statements with all the people living around you in the city. So Tornado Cash was initially built for this, but obviously if people want to use stuff for bad things, they will. So some hacker group from North Korea, Lazarus Group, actually laundered like $500 million or something like that through it. Not great, I agree. But then 3 developers of Tornado Cash were put into jail. One is actually convicted now, I think in Netherlands, for like 64 months of jail time, and 2 are still waiting for court in US. But the thing is, so they wrote code without a malicious intention, and now they are in jail. So should we, if I use my laptop to hack someone or to steal some money, should we jail Linus Torvalds for figuring out how to build an operating system, build a kernel, build open source software so that I can use it for bad stuff? Probably not. So now you have to think about what software you develop so that you don't end up in jail just for people using it for bad stuff. We can go into examples like knife and gun makers, but that's a bit too extreme. Now, with the world of AI, and we have to use the word AI multiple times in every presentation, I think. So AI, there is something called Microsoft Recall, and what it does, as far as I understand, it just watches everything you do, it takes screenshots and it stores them locally, and then AI can give you some insights in what you are doing with your computer and help you with your computer. It's very safe because it's local, but then also it's apparently stored just in some SQLite database, which cannot be hacked. Although data can be extracted very easily. Someone was just like showing how he extracted and uploaded the data from someone else's computer somewhere else. So like, I wouldn't trust anything like that. But basically, all these AI companies seem to be trying to figure out new ways how to watch what we do so that they have more training data and they can do more surveillance and more stuff on that. And now there's last one, and it's consent. So we use this AI stuff. Everybody has AI generated pictures, including me, obviously. And there are these AI pins. If you didn't hear about it, there's this thing that you put on your chest, and then you can ask it questions like, what do I see? And it will tell me, I see Marcel, and I see someone else. But if I'm on the other side, like the pin is looking at me, I didn't give consent to the person like uploading my photo somewhere to OpenAI Cloud or whoever AI Cloud, right? So how do we deal with this consent? Or if I'm using my phone and asking AI something and it's listening to background conversation or something. So how do we deal with that? I don't know, but it's just some risks of today. So now, finally, back to the topic of the presentation, logos. So I talked about cypherpunks, and we derive specifically from the cypherpunk ethos. And I would say cypherpunk is dead. By that I mean, like, you don't hear people calling themselves cypherpunks much. There are some, but they are pretty much hidden and not very vocal. But it is an important movement. And so I also say long live to cypherpunk. We are cypherpunks, and we want to be cypherpunks. We want to be seen and heard. And we want more people join if they care about the same values. So what is Logos? Logos, this is from the website's marketing nonsense. I'll explain it. Logos is a fully decentralized, privacy-preserving, and politically neutral technology stack that provides the necessary support for self-sovereign virtual territories. We basically build asshole-resistant infrastructure. In every community, in every system, you have an asshole or a bunch of them that are trying to break it. They're trying to take over, they are trying to break in, break out, or whatnot. And we need to build infrastructure that can resist these assholes. It can be normal humans, it can be institutions like governments, doesn't really matter. But we need to build infrastructure that is resistant to this. So another dive back into history. Who here heard about Ethereum? Who is willing to say they know what Ethereum is? Okay, that's interesting. So originally, in an Ethereum white paper, now if you search for information about Ethereum, you'll find the yellow paper, and that's about the consensus, how the consensus layer works. But in original Ethereum white paper, there was this described, and this was the slide from Gavin Wood when he presented Ethereum at conferences. Ethereum consisted of 3 things. It consisted of consensus, which is Ethereum as we know it today, if you interact with smart contracts, buy shitcoins on DEXs and things like that. Then there was storage, which is Swarm, which still exists, but it's not that alive as they probably would want it to be. And then there was communication layer, which was Whisper, which is completely dead and doesn't exist anymore. If you want to read more about this, there's this article. I'll share the slides later, but this is the article from Vitalik Buterin, Make Ethereum Cypherpunk Again, where he talks about this in more detail. But basically, we have consensus, storage, and communication as a basic layer of open internet. And this is what Web3 term means. This is how it was coined. Gavin Wood coined term Web3, consisting of these 3 pillars. Now, if you talk about Web3, is the meaning that it was given to by like all these VCs like A16Z, where they say, is the next iteration of Web. We had Web 1, Web 2, and now Web 3. That's not what Web 3 means. Web 3 means this. We have 3 pillars, and it is the open internet that we want to build. So Logos is building on the same premise, basically following the original idea of Ethereum, that's because Ethereum kind of abandoned the original idea and just focused on the consensus. So you can think about Logos as this monument where we have research at the bottom. We do a lot of research that is like actually focusing on cryptography, that is focusing on zero knowledge, on peer-to-peer networks and optimizing the communication in peer-to-peer networks and things like that. This team, VAC, is actually like used by other projects and other teams when we are out of our debt. We go to them like, guys, we have no idea how this works. You need to help us. And then we have these 3 pillars as in the original Ethereum white paper. So consensus is Nomos, communications is Waku, that's the project I work on, and then Codex is a decentralized storage. And now Logos on top, the marketing sentence said that it's a technology stack. I more think of Logos as a movement, as like if you are an activist, if you are a cypherpunk, maybe you don't care about technology that much, as in like I don't write technology, but I want to just be part of something that is disrupting this space. So that's kind of what Logos is trying to target. So I want to talk briefly about all those projects, just so that you know what they are about and what they are aiming for. They are all built as peer-to-peer, censorship-resistant projects, highly valuing privacy and decentralization. So Nomos, the blockchain, which doesn't work, it's still in the research phase mostly, but it has those 4 values, those 4 core values. So resiliency, and I put these kind of explanations in there. So hiding in plain sight, what does it mean? If you want to be resilient, you need to make sure that people can't shut you down. And how to do it, how Logos thinks about doing it, is by using privacy. If they can't find you, or if they can't attach, if they can't point to you, then they can't shut you down. So by having privacy in the network, in the whole stack of the blockchain, from the node operators to the transactions, they cannot shut down the people because they can't find the people, in a sense. Censorship resistance is obvious, like we don't want people to censor things, but then also self-censorship. I talked about how we need the privacy to freedom of speech, for example, or freedom of innovation, and that goes well with self-censorship. If you don't have privacy, if everything you do is seen by everyone else, then you may self-censor. You may not say all the words. You may not do all the things. So we want to make sure that there is not even a self-censorship, not only censorship from outside. Self-sovereignty. Nomos is built in a way where communities should be able to kind of pop up on the chain, do community governance, but each single community should have their own rules. It's not like they would all have to fit into some template. So, but at the same time, there is this interconnectedness. We want people to not only have their own rules, but still be able to find the communication level with other communities, and by that have these sovereign states or sovereign spaces in cyberspace. Codex, I think, will be more interesting to this crowd here. If you are into distributed systems and if you are into storage, for example, then Codex is a distributed, decentralized storage. It's a durability engine, as they call it. And the reason for that is that basically the goal is that if you pay some amount of money and say, I don't know, I'm gonna just random number, $100, and I want this data to be out there for 20 years, right? Then there should be nodes in the network that will just do it for you without you actually running anything, really, right? And for that, they use erasure coding for durability, for assurance and repair. So rather than, as some other distributed storage do, they copy the data multiple times, the whole data, but then it's hard to prove that you still hold the data because you have to basically download the chunk or the whole data back to prove that this node still has all of the data. You can just, if you use erasure coding, you have small chunks, you can easily prove that you still hold some part of data, and you can still you can easily repair from the other nodes in the network. Again, censorship resistant, be resistant to DDoS, to corruption of the data, to shutdown of the half of the network, and things like that. Decentralization, they want to make sure that even small node providers, small data storage providers will be able to be part of the network, because then that means easier and wider decentralization. And then accessibility, if you are a small node provider or small storage provider, you don't necessarily want to consume a lot of bandwidth if it's like your home node somewhere at the edge of the internet network provider. And Waku, it's about communication. So if you have multiple parts of your application or multiple people that need to exchange some information, some messages, that's what Waku is for, in a decentralized and privacy-preserving way. So privacy, we use unlinkability and encryption. Basically, not being able to link sender and recipient is a key for privacy. Encryption is not enough. And then we use zero-knowledge math and zero-knowledge magic, as I call it, to also prove things in the network, that you are allowed to send messages and how many messages and things like that. Censorship resistance, there is no central point, unlike with things like Kafka or AWS SQS, where you publish and subscribe, which is a similar model that we use. Here there is no central point of failure on the way to whoever you want to send the message. Modularity, it needs to work on phones and on machines somewhere in the data center. So that's kind of how the stack is modular or adaptable to various environments. And scalability, be able to discover peers, and then also, if there is just too much load, then be able to shard the traffic. So I am basically almost at the end. I want to summarize. So most of you seem to value the cypherpunk values, or be in line with cypherpunk values. So be a cypherpunk. Be a little bit paranoid when you do something online. They're watching. So think about what you are using and how you can make software better, so that other people may, who are not that paranoid, are still not attackable, let's say. Value the privacy, your privacy, and also privacy of other people. Open source is great. Do open source software. Web3 is not just blockchain. All the stuff I talked about is part of Web3, and I haven't said a name of a cryptocurrency once, right? So if you are against, and I know people here are against cryptocurrencies and shitcoins, it's okay, but Web3 is not just that. There is much more interesting infrastructure that you can build and you can work on. I talked about open source, so contribute in any way you can, code, not code, anything. Contribute to open source project, contribute to our project if you want. And happy hacking. I know we are not at a hackathon. I usually go to hackathons and help people hack on things, but still, you are probably, most of you are some kind of hackers, building stuff, building projects, so happy hacking. Also, I would like to invite you, it's today, this evening at 6 p.m. in the Students Club across the street. There. I don't know, you know where I mean. Yeah, I think so. So we have a Logos assembly, which is basically a cypherpunk meetup, kind of what we want to do. We will have a free beer, free pizza, and we will watch a documentary about cypherpunks, cypherpunks write code. So if you want to talk about these things, and if you want to watch an interesting movie about history of cryptography and encryption and how these people came to be and came together, then stop by. If you can register, please register so that I know how much pizza I should order. If you can't register or don't want to register, okay, just show up and we will just starve. Yeah, oops, sorry. Yeah, and that's it. So we can probably open up for questions. Christoph.
Could you flip one slide?
I can't, they are taking pictures of this.
No, they're not.
Yeah, look.
So,
This one. I missed a letter there. So it's a typo, but yeah, I mean, I think it's going to redirect you. Yeah, this is a bit problematic. We don't have good tools yet. we're building the tools. So for example, Waku, on top of Waku, there is an application called Status being built. It's now launched in closed beta, so it's like you can use it, but it's not gonna be a full thing yet. They are soon, in a couple of weeks, should launch an open beta, so you can build your community. It looks like Discord, it feels like Discord, but it's all running on top of a peer-to-peer network that is completely private, uncensorable. If you create a community, which is like a Discord server, nobody can shut it down. It's yours and you control it. You can kick people out, obviously, because you own it, but it's also Web3 native. So if you are in some Web3 Discord communities, there are these weird bots that check your wallet balances for NFTs and stuff. This is like native. There is actually NFT under the hood in the community, but it's very transparent. You don't have to, like, it's not an NFT that you would sell. It's an NFT that just gives you some role in the community, for example, like, and you are an admin, or you can do whatever, right? But that will be hopefully the way to communicate with us and other people in a way that is not controllable. Like the Discord, we have heard about servers being shut down because someone said like to Discord, hey, you need to shut down this community or we'll shut you down. So they did, and then the community was gone, and it was like thousands of people, for example, right? So this will hopefully be solved soon. But yeah, still work in progress.
Still some authority can size your server, right?
Well, that's the benefit of peer-to-peer networks. As long as you can actually have a decentralized peer-to-peer network where other people can run the same software, the same configuration as you do, then if your server goes away, they are still there and they can still do stuff.
Do you plan to support maybe Tor like the other?
There is, we do, there is an RFC. I don't know if anyone is actually using it, but you can use Waku on top of Tor. So like you can, we can talk about how Waku works and how it's maybe even more private than Tor in some senses. But you could also use Waku, for example, on top of Tor, where all the information that you send is also onion routed. Or you can use a mixnet like Nim or Hopper, where it uses similar stuff, but there is incentivization, so you don't have to fall prey to like those exit and entry nodes, which are run by CIA apparently. I don't know, but that's what they say, right?
Just 70%.
Yeah, good enough.
So basically we are back to feed.net, right?
To what?
Feed.net.
For
the internet.
Right.
Also peer-to-peer.
I mean, we still run over internet, so we are back to feed.net. I don't know, maybe. We'll see about that. But we still run over internet. We just want to make sure that whatever you publish over the internet either cannot be traced to you if you don't want it, or it cannot be shut down if you don't want it, right? Or there is a way to replicate it easily so that if it's shut down, there is still another part that runs and that serves the same purpose. I guess, yeah, sure.
If you compare these logos, kind of this
Yeah.
with metrics, right? Because metrics is also decentralized, so main differentiator.
Comparison to metrics, like I'll be honest, I have never explored metrics too much because I don't work on the status app itself. I am on the lower level. But as far as I understand, to be able to like use metrics and everything, there is still some federation which leads to kind of the tree of like there is one central node that is kind of doing stuff. So you can, I've seen, so I'm not sure how it compares specifically, like what are the specific differences, how much private metrics is actually. I have to do my homework on that one. I keep pushing it off or doing more fun stuff, I guess. But there are differences. As here, it's not aggregating, it's not federated at all, right? So there is more decentralization in that sense. And I'm not sure how actually private metrics is like. You can run your server, but then whether if I connect to that server, you can still trace me back to where I am sitting, or whether it's private, and if I publish a message, how private it is in a sense of seeing that I have published the message. That's something that Status will allow you to get away with. Like you publish a message, but even someone watching the network will not know that it was you. They will just see a message being published, but not you publishing a message. Because leaking the metadata is one issue with privacy. Like it's not about the content, it's about that you know that someone did something with somebody else, for example, right? And that's why even though you have, I don't know, end-to-end encryption in Signal, or you can enable it in Telegram, you can still be connected to other people who may be doing bad things, even though you are not doing anything bad. And just by that connection, you may get into trouble, even though you don't know what the exchange of information was. And that's one part of the problem that we are trying to solve, that there is no linkability of people between each other.
What about linking people on the size of the published file? Like if you upload something with
Yeah.
a specific size, as someone downloads the data with the same size, then someone can trace it even through the...
Yeah, so the question is, what if I upload a specific size of the data and someone downloads it? Yes, there are things that, even though the application is trying its best, there are still things that you need to consider as a person doing something with the application, right? So, not sure how this is solved in status. Like, again, I'm not part of that team specifically, so I don't know how they care about all these things. I don't think that they, like, if you publish a file, it's not actually sending the file to the other person. I think it's like uploaded somewhere and then the person downloads it, but it's still peer-to-peer network, so it will be hard to like link it together. But yeah, I don't have an answer for that. Yes? Okay, last question then, quickly.
So is the storage system somehow similar to IFS or something like that?
IPFS, you mean? Interplanetary file system, yeah. So the question is whether this system is similar to IPFS. The problem with IPFS is that IPFS does not give you any guarantee on storing the data actually. You can run your own node, you have to pin the data to that node, but you cannot convince other participants in the network to actually store the data for you. So that's a problem, because then if the data is pinned to your own node and the node gets shut down, your data is gone from the network. So this solves it by actually putting in the economical incentives to other people serving the data. And then also the big difference is that IPFS does not use the erasure coding, they just use the actual data file, basically. So here we basically don't store the data itself, we store just the erasure coding chunks so that you can easily reconstruct it back if like part of the network fails or something like that. Okay, we're out of time. Thank you very much. I hope to see you tonight. Come for beer and movie. And yeah, catch me later if you have questions or want to discuss something.